All right, hello 12s. Here is your online lesson on the digestive system. So we're moving on now. We're getting out of biochemistry and all that sort of stuff, and we're moving over to anatomy. So we're going to be working with our friend here. Digestive system. So now that we're moving over to anatomy, we're going to be learning more about structure. So you need to understand and know how what the structures are and how they work together, but not forget all of the small, tiny biochemistry stuff that you learned already. How do these structures relate to all those things that we learned about, those biomolecules and genetics and proteins and all those things? All of that is at play to create all of the structures that we see here. So let's start talking about digestion. And I'm going to ask you guys a question is, why do we eat? Why? Why do you have to eat? What's it for? And I'm not going to answer it right away. Hopefully we'll answer it maybe by the end of this unit, and you'll know that answer. I guarantee you that'll probably be a question on the exam. And some of you will just write like, we need nutrients or something like that. But think about it. Think about it in terms of all those things that we learned about before. Why do we need to eat? Okay, so we start. How do we eat? What do we need to do? Well, we need to get the food in. So actually your digestive tract is not really inside your body. This is the opening in your mouth here. Let's see if I can take this guy apart. How's this going to work? I need to put this thing somewhere. Hold on. Dude, man, come with me. Okay, we're going to come. It's like we're doing a little dance here. And we'll put this like that. And we're going to take there we go. Take his head off here. Okay, so eating starts in the mouth. There you go. Food goes in. So you've got the tongue. And then at the back of your mouth, there's a structure called the pharynx. And it connects the trachea and the esophagus. You can see the esophagus here is actually quite small. I bet you didn't think it was that small. You imagined it as being bigger. So that's the pharynx back here. And then you see there's a little like a little flap of skin here. You guys can see that. And so what happens is when you don't want food going down here, you don't want food going down your trachea, that would be bad. Your lungs, they can't do anything with the food. So what happens when you swallow this little flap, it's called the epiglottis, it closes over top of the trachea. The top of the trachea is called the glottis. And then food can go down your esophagus. And the esophagus has kind of got some special stuff to it. But hold on, before I say that, I'm not done here. So eating does sort of two things. You need to digest your food. So there's physical digestion and chemical digestion. So both things actually start happening here inside your mouth. You start digesting food immediately. Why would you waste time and not do it? You guys are probably thinking, oh, you save it until it gets down here. Oh, no. You start digesting right away. So mechanical digestion starts happening because you got teeth. So you start chewing on your food. You start breaking it down, breaking it apart, breaking the bonds that hold it together mechanically. And then there's chemical digestion. So you have glands inside your mouth that secrete saliva. And there's two types of glands that we're going to be talking about as we go through our anatomy of the body. There's endocrine glands and exocrine glands. So you're going to need to know about those. And they're named wrong. Endocrine glands don't have a duct, but they have the letter D in it. See how it's confusing? So endocrine glands, what they do is they release their products. And now you should be thinking about the secretory pathway right away. Boom, immediately. Oh, I'm thinking about the secretory pathway. That's how cells release things, right? You learned about the secretory pathway. So endocrine glands, they release their products, which are going to be hormones most of the time, directly into the blood. They shoot it into the bloodstream and it circulates the blood. Those hormones then go to the cells through the blood that they target and activate parts of DNA. Boom, you're thinking about cell genetics, the stuff that we learned about. And then there are exocrine glands. Exocrine glands release their products into a duct and it flows into the tissue. And often these are going to be proteins, enzymes, those types of things. Again, secretory pathway. And the secretory pathway all the way from the nucleus all the way out. Think about all that. So you have salivary glands in here that release saliva. And saliva is a mixture of water and salivary amylase. Ooh, what's the last bit of that word there? Amylase? ACE? Oh, that means it's an enzyme. Yes, it's an enzyme. It's an enzyme that digests starch. It helps you start digesting starch. So, when you eat rice, you start digesting the rice right here. And you create in here by chewing and putting water in here. What do you need that water for? Think about what's the chemical reaction that requires water? Think about that. It's hydrolysis. It's breaking bonds. Breaking which kind of bonds? Covalent bonds. Ooh, so much stuff that we have learned already that applies to this. So you chew, you create a food bolus, you need all that water, and you need the enzyme. What's that enzyme doing? Which bonds is it breaking? I'll let you answer that. And then once you've made the food mushy enough, you've broken it down physically, you've started digesting the starch with the salivary amylase, you swallow it, and down it goes your esophagus. But it doesn't just fall down your esophagus. Look how thin the esophagus is. It's not a very big tube. So food gets squeezed down here, and the esophagus has muscles around it. It's got a muscle lining around the esophagus. And it's got two types of muscles, and what they do is they can squeeze it and stretch. They squeeze and stretch. And let me just grab my note here so I can make sure I'm not forgetting anything. So they squeeze and they stretch. Oh, I got locked out. And that process is called peristalsis. So peristalsis is muscle squeezing. So there's circular muscles that constrict and longitudinal muscles that can shorten, actually they don't stretch, they shorten the esophagus. And so it basically pushes the food down. So this is good if you want to become an astronaut, because you can go up into space and the food will still go down towards your stomach. The esophagus connects your mouth to your stomach. If you didn't have peristalsis, if you couldn't do peristalsis, if you went up into space and you just relied on gravity for your food to fall down, well, the effects of gravity are canceled out in orbit, so you would starve because the food would not go down. But luckily we have peristalsis. You can also, if you're a person that likes to stand on their head, it means that if you stand on your head and eat something, the food will still make it to your stomach. So that's a good start here about the top bit. So we talked about the pharynx, right? It sort of connects. It's this area here that connects everything. We talked about salivary glands. We talked about what saliva is. That's good. And then the esophagus. We got those two layers of muscle. So now we're continuing on. So I'm gonna put this head over here. So we've swallowed, the food goes down, and now we need to, so sorry, I gotta take your lungs out. Pull the lungs out. We'll put your heart out. Oh, this is a big lung, we'll be learning about those. And so the esophagus goes down, it's at the back there, and it connects to our next contestant, which is the stomach. This is what your stomach looks like. It's sort of like this. This is the bottom. This is the top. The esophagus connects here. Right. There it is. There's the esophagus. You can see kind of the esophagus here. There it is connecting there. And up here is something called a sphincter. So this sphincter is the cardiac sphincter, the one at the top, because it's near the heart. Heart is cardiac, so it's the cardiac sphincter. And it controls what goes in and out of the stomach. If you ever get heartburn, you guys are young, you shouldn't be getting heartburn, but if you eat a lot of spicy foods or whatever and you upset your stomach, heartburn is actually this stuff leaking out of your stomach and in past this cardiac sphincter and into your esophagus and irritating your esophagus. Now, stomach also has circular muscle and it's got longitudinal muscle, so it can shorten and it can squeeze, but also has oblique muscle, which is sort of muscle going at an angle, and that kind of waves the stomach. And what that's doing is it's churning the food inside. So that is mechanical digestion. The stomach also does mechanical digestion. Stomach has sort of three purposes. Number one, it actually stores food, so food is just kept in the stomach. It does mechanical digestion, and it does chemical digestion as well. So let's talk about here what happens in the stomach. I don't want to forget anything. So the esophagus, the inside of the esophagus is nice and smooth, but inside the stomach, it's kind of rough in here. See? These rough bits are called the rugae. The rugae. And the purpose for the rugae is to help, it sort of squeezes, it's to help churn the food. And also a little bit to increase surface area. Remaining roughness is always kind of a surface area bit. At the bottom of the stomach, so the stomach's kind of like this. So we've got the cardiac sphincter. Down here we got the pyloric sphincter. This one closes and that will let food into the small intestine. So that sphincter, if it opens, your stomach's not storing food. So it's this sphincter is closed to help store food and to start the digestion. So remember we talked about endocrine glands, exocrine glands. Exocrine glands, things flow down a tube, a duct. Endocrine glands, things are released right into the bloodstream. So what happens in the stomach? Food, which is called the food bolus now because you crunched it up. It's got salivary amylase in it. It's got water in it. It's a lumpy food bolus. It comes down into the stomach. The cardiac sphincter opens, lets in some food. When that food goes in, it stretches the lining of the stomach, and there are stretch receptors in the stomach, and when they get stimulated, they signal an endocrine gland. Make sure I get that right. Yes, an endocrine gland. These are called G cells. And they respond to these stretch receptors, and they release a hormone called gastrin. So we're going to be learning all about hormones. There's going to be hormone talk here. So gastrin, so this is an endocrine gland. So it's released into the blood, goes throughout the blood, and it activates an endocrine gland that has a duct that releases enzymes it releases basically a mixture of stuff, which is called gastric juice. And these cells are inside the stomach. And this gastric juice, what it's composed of is hydrochloric acid. So the pH of the stomach is a lot lower. Water, again, remember we need a lot of water here. Why do we need water? For what? For hydrolysis. Why are we doing hydrolysis? Oh yeah, because we're breaking food down. Why are we breaking food down? For biological molecules? Oh yeah. And there's hydrochloric acid, water, and an enzyme called pepsinogen. The amylase, the salivary amylase, is still doing stuff, but once it gets into the low pH, remember, enzymes only have a range of pH that they work in. So salivary amylase gets denatured here in the stomach and it stops working. Pepsinogen, though, its pH range is on the low side. It can work in this, the pH is something like 2, around 2. It can work in these acidic conditions. And what pepsinogen breaks is it's got pepsin in it. Peptide bonds is basically what it's breaking. You guys remember where peptide bonds are? Do you remember what kind of bonds they are? They're covalent bonds between amino acids. What do amino acids make up? That's a monomer. An amino acid is a monomer. What polymers do they make up? Is it proteins? It's proteins. You gotta think of all that stuff. All those things are game. So in here, we're storing food, we're churning food, and we're chemically breaking down proteins inside the stomach using this gastric juice. Okay? So that's the upper digestive tract. Those are the things that are going on in the upper digestive tract. The stretching, remember, releases gastrin from those G cells. Those are endocrine glands, which activates exocrine glands, which release gastric juice into the stomach. Anything I want to say about that? Okay, well, think about those things. We'll do, what is it, Tuesday? We'll do lower digestive tract. We're going to slow things down now. So just kind of review this bit for now. Go over those questions, the F1 questions. Look through the book. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Have a look in the notes, and I'll see you tomorrow.